think is the right balance between depth and access to the masses who don't understand but need to be converted? Yeah, so I spent my first few years ish, probably like 2 years when I was an ordinand, an Anglican ordinand. I spent that time catechizing the youth. So my first experience teaching anybody a lot of the stuff that I still talk to this day, like teaching anybody about the Trinity. My first experience, Trinity, the Incarnation, was teaching like teenagers and, and like middle schoolers. So like yeah, I'm pretty used to having to like dumb it, not necessarily dumb it down, bring it to somebody's level.
Mm.
So when it comes to bringing it to somebody's level, this is it's really not incredibly difficult.
Yeah,
Uh,
I agree.
it's just a lot of people. The reason they find it difficult is because they themselves don't understand it beforehand.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So, what's really helpful is providing a sort of consistent terminology is helpful, um, because really learning theology is kind of like learning a new language. I've noticed is that there's a certain jargon that has to be learned. There's a certain set of terms that have to be learned that get frequently used over and over again. And it's only by a sort of a slow and steady introduction to that terminology where one actually knows whether they understand it or not and are able to know where to go to find out what these terms mean. It's only through that process, and that process can take a long time for some
Yeah.
people, that they truly get introduced. And this is even more apparent in scholasticism. Um, but yeah, it really is using consistent terminology and a lot of illustrations and not trying to force feed too much at one point. Like I could honestly talk with somebody for like 30 minutes, and in that 30-minute conversation about, let's say, the Trinity, get them to understand what the teaching is. But what's also important, and this is something that Father Lagrange likes to point out a lot, that there's also needs to be an understanding in your subject of the idea of mystery. And the idea of mystery is the fact that while we can investigate something and know that they're not contradictory, often we can't resolve. It's hard to resolve. Um, so, like, I can explain to you
Yep.
perfectly the Trinitarian relations and how that doesn't contradict the unity by the possession of a numerically singular essence. But you're gonna get that these two don't contradict, and I can show you all day that they don't contradict. But you're gonna have difficulty resolving those two, imagining, if you will, you're imagining how these two fit together, and you have to be okay with that.
Yep.
And if I'm ever talking to anybody that's not okay with that, I just won't talk about. I can't talk about high issues. I can't talk about predestination with them. Can't talk about the Trinity with them. And that's why a lot of times when I begin discussions with this and I realize it, I just don't continue the discussion, or I just ignore. Because if you're not going to come to theology with an understanding of mystery and trying to just seek what the sources say and what they teach, and if you have difficulty resolving them, kind of being comfortable with the tension, then you're just not worthy to be a theologian, or really not worthy to read theology at
Absolutely.
all. So you
Absolutely.
just need to do something else, I guess,
Yep.
because you need to understand mystery.
100% true. 100%.